Here's a machine that deposits $2,000 into a Canadian bank account every month. It has no boss, no shifts, no retirement date. Today we take it apart, piece by piece, backwards, to see exactly what it's built from and what it costs to build. This is a teardown. First the casing, the yield the machine runs at, then the engine, which Canadian dividend payers actually sit inside. Then the price tag, the capital it takes at a 4%, 5%, and 6% yield, with the Amish trade-offs at each level. I'm Nathan, and by the end, you'll hold the full blueprint, including where to house the machine, TFSA, RRSP, or a regular account, so the CRA takes the smallest possible cut of every single $2,000 payout. Start with the target spec. $2,000 a month is $24,000 a year of dividend income landing in your account. That's the output the machine has to produce, not $24,000 of gains, not $24,000 of paper wealth, $24,000 of cash deposited on a schedule you don't control from businesses that keep operating whether you show up or not. To reverse engineer the price tag, we work off yield. Yield is the annual dividend divided by the amount invested. At a 4% yield, every $100 invested throws off $4 a year. So, $24,000 a year takes $600,000 invested. Bump the yield to 5%, and the same $24,000 comes off $480,000. Push to 6%, and the price tag falls to $400K. That's the whole price sheet: $600,000, $480,000, $400,000. Those three numbers are not equivalent. Each yield tier changes what has to sit inside the engine. So let's crack the casing and look at what actually pays each rate in Canada right now. At the 4% tier, you're in mainstream Canadian dividend territory. That's roughly what you get from broad Canadian dividend, ETFs, high-quality utilities, and most of the big six banks. FYI, the two most referenced index ETFs, VDY from Vanguard and XDV from iShares, currently sit at trailing yields of roughly 2.9% and 3.7% respectively as of mid-2026. Those numbers are lower than the historical 4 to 4.5%. These funds paid because Canadian dividend stocks have ripped higher over the past year. VDY is up over 54% on total return. XDV is up over 45%. Prices went up, so yields on today's purchase price came down. That's the first honest note. If you're buying the broad ETFs at a 3% yield today, you need more capital to hit $2,000 a month than the 4% math suggests. At 3%, the price tag on $24,000 a year is $800,000. Yield is not a fixed setting on the machine. It moves with the market price of what's inside. Individual Canadian banks give you higher headline yields than the broad ETFs right now. Scotiabank sits near the top of the big six for yield in the mid 4% range. RBC, the largest and highest quality of the group, trades at a premium valuation and yields lower. TD, BMO, and CIBC sit somewhere in the middle. The whole big six range in 2026 is roughly 3.5 to 5.8%. Every one of them raised the dividend during their 2026 fiscal year. RBC hiked 7.3%. TD hiked 3.7%. That matters more than the today yield number, and we'll get to why in a minute. Push to the 5% tier, and the engine changes. You leave broad ETFs behind and start relying on higher yielding sectors: pipelines, telecoms, REITs. Enbridge currently pays about 5% after a 3% dividend hike heading into 2026. BCE, after cutting its dividend in 2025, now yields around 5.3%. Canadian utilities like Fortis and Emera pay in the 4 to 5% range with decades-long dividend growth records. Fortis has raised its dividend for 51 consecutive years. Those are real payers. But this is also where the engine gets more concentrated. The Canadian dividend market is dominated by financials and energy. Load up on pipelines and telecoms to reach 5%, and you have effectively made a bet on two sectors doing well at the same time. That's the honest spec sheet note at the 5% tier. higher yield, less diversification, more exposure to sector-specific pain. Push to 6% and you're in a different vehicle entirely. This tier is where covered call ETFs live. Products like ZWW and ZWC from BMO, plus similar offerings from Hamilton and Harvest, pay yields in the 6% to 10% plus range by writing call options against a portfolio of Canadian dividend stocks. Here's what the spec sheet hides. Higher yield is not free. Covered call ETFs collect option premiums up front, which juices the monthly distribution. In exchange, they cap the upside when the underlying stocks rally. Over a 10-year window, a covered call ETF on Canadian banks will typically deliver less total return than owning the banks directly, because the call writing gives away the biggest up months. On top of that, a chunk of the distribution can come back as return of capital, meaning the fund is paying you with your own money and gradually shrinking the NAV per unit. It shows up as tax-friendly income today, but it lowers your future cost base and future distribution power. That's the spec sheet trade-off at 6%, income today, capped growth, and a distribution that isn't purely earned from dividends. It's not a scam, it's a legitimate product, but you need to know what you're buying. Blueprint line added, at 6% yield, you buy income today by giving up compound growth tomorrow. Now, the yield you start at is not the yield you keep. Here's the piece most $2,000 a month videos skip entirely. A Canadian bank stock bought today at a 4% yield with a 7% annual dividend growth rate will within roughly 8 years be paying you more income on your original cost than a 6% yielder that never grows. Compound that out. RBC has raised its dividend at roughly 7% a year over the last decade, TD at roughly 7 to 8%, Fortis at 6% a year for 51 straight years. If you own the shares from today at a 4% starting yield, and the dividend doubles over the next decade, your yield on cost, meaning the annual dividend divided by what you originally paid, becomes 8%. Meanwhile, a covered call ETF still pays roughly the same 6 to 7% on the same original capital, because those distributions don't grow the same way. The static yield machine is louder today. The growth machine gets louder every year. Blueprint line added, dividend growth is the quiet feature that decides who wins the machine race after year 8. Now the housing decision. Where you put the machine matters as much as what's inside it. Because the CRA treats each account type differently, the TFSA is the cleanest housing possible. Dividends earned inside a TFSA are 100% tax-free. No gross up, no dividend tax credit needed, no reporting on your return, and, crucially, TFSA withdrawals do not count toward the OAS clawback threshold in retirement. The reality check is contribution room. As of January 2026, the cumulative TFSA room for anyone who was 18 or older when the program launched in 2009 is $109,000. For a couple, that's $218,000 of combined room, growing $7,000 per person per year. That means a couple can shelter roughly $218,000 of the machine right now, which, at a 5% yield, throws off about $10,900 a year, or a bit over $900 a month, entirely tax-free. It's a serious chunk of the machine, but not the whole thing. A non-registered account is where the interesting math starts. Eligible Canadian dividends get preferential tax treatment through the dividend tax credit. The mechanism is the cash dividend is grossed up by 38%, meaning a $1,000 dividend gets reported as $1,380 of taxable income. Then a 15.02% federal dividend tax credit plus a provincial credit is applied against the tax owed. Net result: in a modest tax bracket, eligible Canadian dividends can be taxed at close to 0% federally and sometimes negatively when combined with provincial credits. On the surface, this looks like a gift. Here's the counterintuitive trap. The 38% gross up inflates your reported net income even though you never received the extra money. That inflated income is what the CRA uses to test your OAS clawback threshold, which for the 2026 tax year sits at $95,323 of net income Every dollar over that threshold costs you 15 cents of OAS. So a retiree drawing what looks like modest dividend income in a non-registered account can still poke the OAS clawback because the gross up pushes their reported income over the line. $60,000. Cash dividend becomes $82,800 of grossed up income. Add a modest RRIF withdrawal, and you're over the threshold. The dividend tax credit protects you from paying full tax on that grossed up amount, but it does not protect you from the clawback. That's the trap. The RRSP and RRIF house the machine differently. Contributions to an RRSP give you a tax deduction on the way in, and everything grows tax sheltered inside. But every dollar coming out, including dividend income, gets taxed as regular income at your full marginal rate. There is no dividend tax credit for dividends earned inside an RRSP or RREF. So while the RRSP is a powerful vehicle for building the machine, it's the least tax-efficient place to actually run the machine in retirement. The standard build order most Canadian investors follow: fill the TFSA first for tax-free income, use the RSP for its tax deduction while working, and to shelter growth, and use the non-registered account last, holding Canadian eligible dividend payers there specifically to benefit from the dividend tax credit while being mindful of the OAS trap once you cross 65. Blueprint line added, fill TFSA first, RRSP second, non-registered third, and watch the gross up if you're near 65. Now the honest build path. Nobody starts with $480,000 sitting in cash. The real question is, how long does it take to build the machine from $0? Take the middle tier target, $480,000 invested at a 5% yield. Assume a 6% total return, which is a conservative estimate for a Canadian dividend portfolio combining yield plus modest growth. If you invest $1,000 a month, you hit $480,000 in roughly 20 years. Invest $1,500 a month, you get there in roughly 15 years. Invest $600 a month, you're looking at 25 years. Those numbers assume steady contributions and reinvested dividends the whole way. Miss a year, cut the contribution in half, hit a bear market during the last 5 years before the target date, and the timeline stretches. Every one of those levers is real. There's a subtle upside worth adding to the blueprint. If you're reinvesting dividends the whole way, the machine actually builds itself faster than the pure contribution math suggests, because dividends buy more shares, which pay more dividends. And if the underlying companies are raising their payouts 5 to 7% a year, your $480,000 target at the end might be delivering $30,000 of annual income instead of $24,000 without you doing anything extra. Blueprint line added, reinvested dividends plus dividend growth compress the honest build time by roughly 2 to 3 years over a 20-year plan. Warning labels next, and these matter. Canadian dividends are not guaranteed. BCE, which was a staple of conservative income portfolios for decades, cut its dividend by more than half in 2025. The stock still hasn't recovered. Algonquin Power cut its dividend 40% in 2023 as rising rates exposed its balance sheet. Chorus Entertainment slashed. TC Energy has been under pressure. These are not obscure names. They were held in Canadian dividend, ETFs, and portfolios everywhere. Sector concentration compounds this. The Canadian dividend market is roughly 60% financials plus energy. A 2008-style banking crisis or a sustained oil crash hits your machine's engine directly. The yield trap is the most common tripwire. A stock yielding 10, 12, 15% is usually signaling that the market thinks the dividend is about to be cut. Right now, TELUS is yielding roughly 10 to 11%, which sounds incredible. But its payout ratio has been over 100% for 3 years, meaning it's paying out more in dividends than it earns. Analysts widely see a cut as increasingly likely if the company can't reduce debt fast enough. Chase that 11% headline yield, and there's a real chance you buy a machine that quietly reprograms itself down to 5.5%. while the share price drops 30% at the same time. The best defense is diversification across sectors, awareness of payout ratios, and a bias toward companies with long, boring records of raising the dividend through recessions. Fortis raising for 51 years is not exciting. It is exactly the profile you want inside the machine you plan to run for the next 30. Read the full blueprint back top to bottom. Target output, $24,000 a year or $2,000 a month. Price tag, $600,000 at a 4% yield, $480,000 at a 5% yield, $400,000 at a 6% yield. With today's actual ETF yields on VDY and XDV sitting below the 4% mark, meaning the honest 2026 price tag on a broad ETF build is closer to $600,000 to $800,000. Engine options, broad dividend, ETFs, and big six banks at the 4% tier, pipelines, telecoms, and REITs at the 5% tier, covered call ETFs at 6% and above, with the income versus growth trade-off baked in. Housing, TFSA first for tax-free output, up to $109,000 per person or $218,000 per couple. RSP second for sheltered building. Non-registered last, with the dividend tax credit balanced against the OAS gross-up trap. Growth override, a 4% starting yield that grows at 7% a year, overtakes a static 6% yield inside a decade. Honest build time from $0 at $1,000 a month, invested in a 6% total return, roughly 20 years to $480,000. At $1,500 a month, roughly 15 years. At $600 a month, roughly 25 years, with reinvested dividends and dividend growth compressing that timeline by 2 to 3 years. Warning labels. Dividends get cut, sectors concentrate, and double-digit yields usually mean the market is telling you something you don't want to hear. That's the machine. That's every piece. What you do with the blueprint is your call. Every build needs its own inspection. Your tax situation, your available TFSA and RRSP room, your other income, your time horizon, and your tolerance for a bad year are all inputs no video can measure for you. This is education, not financial advice. Talk to a Canadian registered advisor or accountant before you start bolting parts together, especially around the TFSA, RRSP, and OAS piece. And if the teardown was useful, the like button helps the channel keep running teardowns exactly like this one. I'll see you in the next build.